and we did. Oops.
All right, quiet down. Not
Yes,
enough
sir.
talking. All right, we're live now. Thanks, Tim. And thank you for joining us tonight. My name's Ken Stano with YouTube channel HistoryX and historyxchannel.com. Thanks for watching. Tonight is another live broadcast, crossover event. We got 4 YouTube channels this time. Yeah, 4 YouTube channels. Buffalo Naval Park, USS Slater, HistoryX, of course. And tonight, because we have Tim Nesmith with us, thanks for everyone watching from the USS Kidd Veterans Museum YouTube channel. And of course, with Tim on here, we're going to be talking about the World War II Fletcher class destroyer USS Kidd going into dry dock. Lucky for me, Tim sent me hundreds and hundreds of photos that I had to spend the last day and a half uploading. So, and you guys have to sit here through each and every one of them. So if you've logged on tonight, no logging off, no going to the bathroom. Tim's going to talk about each and every one of them.
Endlessly.
Right. So
yes, that's how, that's it.
Yeah. So of course, like I always say, we can't do this without subscribers and viewers. So thanks for tuning in tonight. Let us know what questions, comments that you might have for everybody. Let's see. Looks like we've got some of the usual offenders. I see Eric is on here.
Yeah. Old man Kenny G, Eric, Teresa, Matt.
All right.
Hello,
yes.
everyone.
So like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about the USS Kidd going into dry dock. But first, Shane or John, did you have any like super quick announcements you wanted to make about what's going on at Slater or Buffalo Naval Park?
Sure.
What do you got? You have 1 minute and go.
So this upcoming Sunday, the 15th, Drakenfell will be visiting the Slater.
Really?
So if anybody in the area wants to come visit them, we'll be there. I think most of the day. We're planning a few fun activities to kind of make us stand out from the other big boys that he's visited. So that'll be Sunday.
He's showing up Sunday. Okay.
Fabulous.
Yep.
Good for
I
you.
believe he's visiting the COD on Saturday, and then Slater Sunday, and then San Diego on Monday.
Totally bypassing Buffalo. I love it.
And Baton Rouge.
Well, I mean, Buffalo and Buffalo, Cleveland, Albany, they're all in like a big line. So
yeah,
that's all right. Alex was around before, so that's good.
All right. Well, that was under a minute. Shane, what do you got? You got a minute.
Yeah, we're steaming through our season. Today we had a very good day. It was the 9/11 day of service, and so we had 4 different local companies with about 175 or so volunteers, and they were doing work on all 3 of our vessels, and electrical, painting. I had about 15 people in the collections moving some boxes and things that I've need moved, things like that. So it was a good day today, remembering those that lost their lives on this day 23 years ago, and upward and onward. And then next week at Midway is Tim. I'm sorry, we will miss you next week.
Yeah, well, it's for a good reason. Good call.
There's very good reason, yes.
Yeah, and well, like we said, that good reason is the USS Kidd going into dry dock. When was it? It's been out of the water now for what, 8 days?
Oh no, she went up on the blocks August 13th.
Oh, geez, almost a month. Oh,
So
okay,
almost a month now.
How'd I get that
Good
wrong?
job. Good job.
Yeah, way to go. All right. Well, so Tim sent me a bunch, as I said a few moments ago, Tim sent me a bunch of images. He had them numbered.
Wow.
This time. This is not this. Actually, I threw this up here first because I thought this was just really cool. When you see this thing, and it's just really, really incredible to see this thing out of the water. So I am going to basically hand it over to Tim.
Tim, could we just get a quick, like, at the very lowest generalization? What are you doing with the Kidd?
So the basic bare minimum that we need to do is take care of any leaks in the hull at or below the water line. We started taking leaks in 2019. We had about 3 of them in the engineering spaces. And after a while of investigation, probably about 3 or 4 months of investigation, we finally nailed it down that it was the touch points of the cradle where the ship sits down on the cradle that were giving us problems. And those spots have not seen any sort of maintenance since probably 1962 when she last went into dry dock in Philadelphia because the ship's always sitting in them. When the ship lifts off, somebody was commenting about, and we'll talk about the rudder a little bit later, about how the rudder looks, and it's like, well, if you're a diver with a 6 knot current going against you and 4 inches of visibility, there's not much you can do. So fixing her in Baton Rouge was not an option. So that's the bare minimum that we're trying to get done is what's going on below the waterline.
I love John's question. I actually didn't think about that, but you actually do have to have a strategy. You can't just say, all right, we're pulling it out of the water.
Right.
You actually do have to have an idea as to what you're going to be tackling, because you only have so much money. You can't just, pull it out of the water and then decide what you're going to do. But when you said that a lot of the holes, and I actually had a couple of, you had some great photos. Where the heck was that?
It's going to be near the beginning. Yeah, near the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's number 20 that I wanted to pull up here. Here's another example. And so this has already been pressure washed or maybe sandblasted and zinced over, but you can still see these holes. And you said that they kind of correlated or corresponded with where the kid sat in its cradle?
Well, not these particular ones, but all of our trouble spots are on those touch points, the real big trouble spots. These holes here actually did not appear until the pressure washing.
Yeah.
And they're not sandblasting there, they're doing water blasting. And I asked about that because I was like, wait, you're just pressure washing her? And they actually told me the PSI, and I don't remember the PSI, but they were like, if you get hit by this pressure washer, it's going to cut your torso in half. So,
well, my pressure washer,
it's good enough to knock steel pretty good clean,
Mine reaches 2,800 PSI, so it can't be any higher than that.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was about a 3,000 PSI or something.
Yeah. So you can see.
Yeah, that's what we found also at the Naval with the Sullivans when we had actually started taking a list in like 2021, and we raised a lot of money. And what they were going to do was they were going to coat in epoxy, and and then that was going to be the buffer until we raised money to go to dry dock. And then 6 months later we had a winter, and then but they were scraping off the zebra mussels, which is a problem in the Great Lakes. And while they were using a wire grinder to get the zebra mussels off, they were perforating holes. So
well, wait, are you saying they were creating holes or they were revealing holes?
No, they were creating holes because the wire brush has to get close enough, and so they would eventually grind down to the steel.
I believe that. Yeah.
I mean, but they were right there to like notice, and they would plug it. Oh, the props, how beautiful. So it's a very similar thing that they noticed.
I remember visiting the Jeremiah O'Brien, the Liberty ship in San Francisco, and apparently they have some kind of like a regular dry docking procedure. I don't know if it's, I'm not saying it's every year, but they go in quite a bit. And they told me, or I asked them, or they mentioned that they pressure washed. And I said, why wouldn't you sandblast? And they said, well, these hulls are so thin and sandblasting does remove metal. They can't afford to remove any more metal. And the hulls, on a DE, they're 3/8. What are they on a Fletcher?
An average of 3/8.
Oh, it is? Okay. All right.
It's an average. If you look at the new book that Stefan Jaminski has, he has a map of the whole ship, and you can see the thicknesses change depending on where you are on the ship. It gets the deck on the main deck on the fantail back here is some crazy number like 9/16 on the edges as it curves around the hull, and something like 12/16 in the center. It's paper thin.
Yeah.
Hey Tim, what was that book?
It's Stefan does these 3D books. It's USS Kidd. I forget the full title of it. Sorry, Stefan. But it's by Stefan Jaminski, Stefan Jaminski. Spell it like it sounds. It's a relatively new book. You can find it on Amazon, or you can go to the USS Kidd Museum store and we sell it.
It's a pop-up book.
No.
Oh, damn it!
It's
A lot of
3D
pictures, right?
images, tons of pictures. In fact, they were looking for a particular line drawing of the hull earlier this week, and in the shipyard, and they asked me if I had it, and I'm like, probably, but it's not digitized. And so I emailed Stefan, and Stefan was very nice, and he emailed them, the
The
whole
destroyer USS
plethora of stuff. There you go. So
Oh yeah. Hey, Buzz is on with us. Hey, Buzz, what's up? You'll be happy to know that Tim actually broke your record and sent me more pictures to download than you have. So yeah,
Buzz,
don't you remember?
thousands.
Yeah.
We got to have Buzz back on again.
I know,
Yeah,
Buzz is the best. Hey, real quick, we jumped in and I didn't even introduce you guys. Shane Stevenson, curator with the Buffalo and Erie County Naval Military Park. Check out their YouTube channel, search for Buffalo Naval Park, or their website, buffalonavalpark.org. We jumped into, what was going on real quick, and I forgot to introduce you guys. And then John Epp, curator, USS Slater out of Albany. He wasn't with us last time because he had COVID, but his voice sounds a little better.
He's better now.
Yeah, check out their YouTube channel, search for USS Slater, or the website, ussslater.org. All right. So, Tim, where do you want to start? I know where I want to start.
Well, we've kind of gone through the pictures of the ship sitting in dry dock. We dry docked her on.
There's more.
Yeah. We dry docked her on August 13th. It's an interesting thing they've got. If you go to our channel and look at the live streams, that first picture there, she's underway, believe it or not. They have a basin on one side of the shipyard where they can sink the dry docks, and then the other areas of the yard, like where she's sitting now, is too shallow to sink the dry dock, because the dry dock will go under, but it won't float the ship off. So they drag the dry docks and the ships around to the basin, sink the dry dock, slide them in, and then bring them back. So I've never seen a ship underway in a dry dock. That was interesting.
There is a fascinating drone video that I watched earlier today showing the tugboats moving the Kidd away from the dock, spinning it around 180 degrees, and then backing it into nosing it into the dry dock. And then you see the dry. Now, I don't think you guys have that posted on your YouTube channel, but if you do a search for USS Kidd dry dock, what's that? Oh, okay. If you do USS Kidd dry dock or something like that, this drone footage is going to pop up. I highly recommend you 2x the playback speed. Don't do it at regular speed because it's a long video. But if you 2x it, it's really interesting to watch, because then, just like Tim says, you see the dry dock all of a sudden start going down this channel. I don't know. It was really interesting to watch.
It's weird to see.
Yeah, definitely.
So she's sitting in the repair yard now at this location, and this is right after we lifted her, or right after she tied up in the repair yard. So she's still wet. She hasn't been pressure washed, cleaned, nothing. It was interesting watching the comments from people seeing that stuff and going, "Oh my God, she's horrible. Just scrap her." But
were you there? I'm assuming you were there when it was lifted out. I mean, how would you miss that,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've been in the dry dock with the Warlick. I've been in the dry dock with Texas. I've seen a ship dry dock before, but actually seeing them lifted, I've never seen that. So that was interesting for me, but for like my wife, it would probably have been like worse than watching paint dry, because it is an all-day event.
Yeah.
But,
I one curiosity I've always had when it comes to dry docking anything, whether it's the cod, in your case the Kidd, how do they know that the ship is centered over these blocks do they have divers under there? Did you notice that at all?
In my experience with this one, I don't think they had divers. I know others have had divers. I think Texas had divers. But for this one, everything was lined up. It's a lot of math, and I don't understand math that well. But maybe we can get one of the shipyard guys to come on in the future and explain how they do it. But or we can do a video on it.
I mean, just to make sure it's centered on the Stealth 96. I love this. Yeah, Plumb Bob, right? It always kind of fascinated me. You know, you've got these blocks right down the keel, and you know, to get it lined up, I would just love
and
to know
especially with a sonar dome protrusion like what we have. I mean, that's threading a needle blindly. You know.
Here, I think this next picture. You don't see it. But one of the pictures you sent does show how you can kind of see that dome behind the scaffolding. But one of the pictures you sent does show how the dome sits right between two of the blocks.
Yeah, you had it up earlier, actually.
I did,
just like she does
where the holes are.
Baton Rouge, right?
Oh wait, hold on a second.
If you get to that area with the holes, then you'll find it.
I think number 20. Hold on a second here. Wait. No. Oh yeah. What's the deal with this picture?
Pressure washing and then water draining back out.
Really?
So they blew a bunch of water in and then came behind because they're knocking the surface rust off and then zinking. So yeah.
Man,
it's coming back out.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the picture of the bow, right? Like.
Yeah. All of this is up near the bow.
And the bow's actually hanging off. Wait, let's go to number 18. The bow's hanging off. So I guess
they needed a little clearance to drive the forklifts. I'm pointing at the screen. Y'all can't see it. To drive the forklifts and that sort of stuff around the stern. So
okay. Oh, got it. All right. Well, let's see. So apparently you have. Oh, wait. Here. Yeah, you're right. Well, here's number. Wait, where is it? Number 10. So. This picture right here.
There it is.
Now that is the Cold War sonar dome, not the World War II sonar dome. So that was in a different location. And Shane and I had a long discussion one day about that over the phone and the internet and everything. And he's like, our sonar dome was right over here. And I'm like, well, that can't be right because my underwater sound room is over here. And went back and forth until finally we realized the sound room was up there and the World War II radar was up there, but when they got rid of that and made the expanded dome.
Did you guys ever nail down a date for that move?
What's that?
Did you ever nail down a date for that relocation of the sonar dome?
Not yet. It had to be in the 50s, but I don't know the exact date yet.
Slater's was moved aft as well. And Slater went to Greece in 51, so I'm wondering if
it would be logical that it would be 51 because that's when they did the enlarged rudder. So if they're gonna readapt everything, I would think that would be when they did it. But it could have been any time, really.
Yeah, our major dry dock periods were 45 and 54, and then 61. So maybe the 54, maybe. But again, I don't have records.
Kidd got hit by a freighter in 53, so they had to put her in 53. So it could have been 53 for us.
Oh, and then they just changed it with, because you were saying that you thought your sonar dome was reconfigured potentially first, and then we learned in our dry dock in 54 maybe from you guys, and that's why our configuration is just slightly different, though it is the larger Cold War size with the higher transducers.
I want to, because you apparently have some explaining to do. Wait, hold on a second. Not in that picture. John, why are you laughing?
Let's Ready see. Service lockers on the dry dock.
Oh yeah. Hold on a second.
We're waiting for an attack.
Hey, put your 40 down there in your 20s. There you go.
Yeah. So apparently you have some explaining to do about the rudder.
Yes. So right off of the bat,
here, allow me.
That's the only one I sent. Yeah.
Allow me to zoom in. Yeah.
So right after we got lifted out, like I said, people were looking. She hadn't been washed or anything, and they were seeing all the green stuff growing on the bottom of the hull. If you look closely, the port side strut, you could see like there's plant life on top of it and everything. If you don't watch the videos of her being dry docked, you don't see, Ken, you would have seen it, all that plant growth just floating around the basin, and they're wind blown. They can scoop them out and throw them up on shore, and there'll be more like the next day. It'll be full again. So this stuff floated into the dry dock with the ship, and then when the ship lifted off, you have this plant growth on there, and there were people commenting, "Oh my God, they haven't been taking care of it. They've got trees growing out of the struts and all this." And then somebody noticed the way that the rudder looks, which, if you notice, it's jagged. And again, if you don't go back and watch all the, from start to finish, all the videos, you don't know that we cut 3 to 4 feet off the bottom of the rudder to get out of the cradle, because they had let trees grow up. The city and the Corps of Engineers had let trees grow up behind us for a while, about 20 years ago. And if the Mississippi River waters hits something that slows it down, it dumps silt. And so we had about a 5-foot rise going up on the riverbed behind us. So we had to trim that in order to get out. And we had to do it, or we weren't going to go this year at all, which leads to even more problems. So for everybody out there in internet land watching, the rudder did not rot off. It did not fall off. We have it. We have the other piece of it.
This looks like you sent me down there with a hacksaw, and I mean, it doesn't look any better than that.
Right. And keep in mind, this guy, what was great was one guy was really getting really fiery about it on Facebook and commenting, and he's like, "What did you trim it off with, an axe?" And as it turned out, the guy that actually did the cutting underwater in 4 inches of visibility was on that thread. And I was like, "Hey, Billy West, would you tell him what you used and how much visibility you had?" And this guy shut up really fast. So
I'll bet Shane and I know who that guy was.
you're probably going to deal with him when you go into dry dock, Shane.
Oh yes, yes.
But
we are
one of the things it
it
brought up is we have a Cold War rudder. And so one of the things that we're considering is, do we put, the missing piece back on, or do we downsize the rudder to her World War II standards? Because it would be shorter like this, and it would be not as long, which was the whole problem with the Fletcher class having a turn radius that was wider than the Iowa class battleships, because those big 30,000 horsepower props on either side for a total of 60,000 horsepower, they were too much for that little bitty rudder to handle. So
I never knew that. You're telling me that the Fletcher class has, I'm sorry, you're telling me that an Iowa class battleship has a tighter turn radius than a Fletcher class destroyer?
At speed and without reversing rudders, pushing one rudder forward and the other rudder backwards, yes.
Really?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I never knew that. Never knew that.
If they've got it cranked up, both of them, then Iowa's going to turn, or New Jersey, Wisconsin, Missouri is going to turn tighter than the Fletcher. The Fletcher is going to veer outward more.
So Fletcher has a straight line speed, but the battleship is more maneuverable.
Isn't that shame? Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Ryan's never going to let me hear the end of it.
They just didn't have, the rudder wasn't large enough, so you weren't getting enough of that wash to actually affect the ship as well.
Okay.
They just wouldn't like cross paths with the prop wash, if that's the right term, so they extended them wider and deeper for the Cold War.
And that would have happened for us in Sully in 51, because every Fletcher that got pulled back out for Korea got that expansion immediately, because they knew of the deficiency.
Nice. So we have that 51. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these holes. And I actually had a couple of questions about, because you have some pictures of the zinc, or actually, I don't know if you have some pictures of the anti-corrosion, the anodes.
Yes.
And my question was going to be, and here they are. So when the Cod was put into dry dock, they removed the anodes, the sacrificial anodes. And I think they were under the assumption that they were zinc, but in actuality, they were magnesium for salt water.
No.
But because I have it backwards.
Yes, zinc for salt water, magnesium for fresh water.
Okay, all right, thank you, thank you. So when the Kidd went into dry dock, and the Kidd had been sitting in freshwater Lake Erie for decades. So when the Cod went into dry dock, they realized that, oh, when they got the Cod from the Navy, they never actually, when the Cod was brought into Lake Erie for training purposes, they never changed these sacrificial anodes from zinc to magnesium, and it actually promoted deterioration of the hull rather than protect it. Now, what do you guys have here?
These are zincs.
These are zincs.
Issue. Yeah, the Navy didn't, so far as I've heard from any other folks like ourselves that have talked about their anodes, the Navy didn't change anything for anybody.
And so where the Kidd sits in Baton Rouge, is that brackish water or is that fresh water?
Oh no, that's fresh water.
It's totally fresh water. It's not even.
We're
it's not even
220
remotely
miles away from the Gulf by river, so
Okay.
there's no encroachment that far.
So these weren't doing a damn bit of good.
Not a bit. Not a bit.
And how do we feel about that?
Well, you know, I can't throw too many stones. There was a lot of stuff that these guys that got the ship originally didn't anticipate, because how could you, you know, if you've never done this before. But you know, I wish somebody they had a few engineers on the board back then. I wish they had thought about it, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, I love too many of them. I'm not going to throw too many stones at them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, and also the anodes are all back on the fantail by the props, where you get the most galvanic reaction between the brass of the props and the steel of the hull. So
they're actually there was hold on a second. I think it was that picture number 8 where I think you get a good view of, there it is. Right above the propeller, you can see all of these sacrificial anodes planted to the bottom of the hull there.
How many anodes does the Fletcher class need?
Oh,
well, none of these.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
That looks like 8.
Looks like 12 on each side there, so maybe
seeing
about 24.
Yeah.
There are going to be more when we're done. We're gonna install a different pattern and cover more of the hull.
You're going to
anode the hell out of it. There's only 24 in the entire hull right now.
Well, they're all off now, but I'm just looking at the pattern in this picture, and I can see 3 rows of 4 above this prop, and so there would be a matching one for the other prop.
Nothing up front, huh?
Nothing up front.
Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Okay, interesting. So let's see. And you're going to be selling these sacrificial anodes. Tim is going to be UPSing these out to whoever wants one.
I don't know that they would survive a trip for the U.S. Postal Service. I had one of them fall off in Baton Rouge 2 years ago when the river was down so low and everybody was coming through. And there's this picture floating around the internet of this kid standing up on the prop shaft, reaching for the hull. And ironically, the next day after it hit the internet, I find one of these has come off, and I don't know if anybody hit it with a stick. I'm not blaming the kid because I don't know the kid did it. I have no evidence that teenager did it. But when it hit the earth, the hard riverbed at that point had dried out, and when it hit it, I mean, it just disintegrated. So
into dust, into powder, right?
Some of it was powder, some of it was small bits.
Yeah,
it didn't stay in a big brick shape.
Let's see. All right, moving on to these guys.
Yeah, so we were pierside for May. We arrived like May 3rd, I think May 2nd, into the shipyard, and the very next week we were tied up pierside, and we stayed there until August 13th. We pulled off our 40 millimeters, twins and quads, except for Mount 45, which you see there on the left of the picture. And we loaded them up and sent them over to Travis Davis and Team Battleship Texas. And they are undergoing restoration. It's a nice little museum excuse me, collaboration. So we had money set aside for restoring the 40s back to movement and preservation. And they have a workshop where they've already been doing the same to their stuff. So instead of us bootstrapping ourselves a workshop into being of that caliber, we contracted with them, and they're going to work up our 40s, and they get a little extra money for their boat, their ship.
So it's technically the Texas Museum that's running this restoration shop?
Yes, they had all of their guns that they've pulled off and other equipment. They have a workshop that they've set up and have been doing all this. So they've already learned, what mistakes that they've made, what mistakes to avoid. So instead of us recreating the wheel, it's like, hey guys, how'd you like this project, and pick up a little money on the side.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. You also had, moving on to the searchlights were something too, right?
Yeah, we lifted our searchlights off, and those have been trucked up to Baton Rouge to our workshop. And no, I'm not going to tell anybody where the workshop is. I get that request a lot. And we are getting those hopefully operational. And with movement and everything, we'll be able to light them up for special events. We got to be careful how we do it because we're sitting pretty close to Baton Rouge Airport. We don't want to mess anything up with the FAA.
Are you able to walk to the workshop from the museum where your office is?
Nice try.
So you're not able. So you're not able to walk from the workshop.
It's somewhere in the Baton Rouge metro area.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And which includes 9 parishes, by the way.
So. I thought this was a pretty cool picture.
I've got a picture. Actually, you see these 2 guys on the left. I've got a picture of them just a few moments later, and they're all strapped into the gun and shooting down kamikazes.
Well, I just would have liked to have seen this thing running down the highway. This flatbed trailer running down the highway with all of these.
The comments on Facebook were very interesting. I was driving down the Highway 90, and all of a sudden this stuff passed, and I was like, "What the heck?" So
these are 20. These are 20 caliber, right? 20 cal.
20 millimeters. Yeah, that's 4 of our 6. So the other 2 were the way she was sitting pierside. They had a crane break down, and so they were working on it near our stern. So this crane that you see doing the lifting couldn't reach from its vantage point, couldn't get far enough back to lift the last 2 20s, but we got them earlier in August.
Let's see. And then
boy, you guys are busy.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like we have undone everything Tim Rizzuto did back in the 80s.
And we're gonna I'm just gonna real quick preface this by saying that the photos that Tim sent, and like I said before, there's a lot of them, but now we're going to be shifting gears into the interior. And I mean, Shane probably knows, and John knows what this stuff is. Obviously we're looking at bunks here, but there's some other interior pictures. I don't know what the heck they are. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some of your explanation.
Okay. Well, this is our aftmost crew berthing, enlisted berthing. One of the projects we're going to be doing is stripping the skin off of the fantail, off of the stern of the ship, topside, because we have seen more corrosion there than anywhere else on the ship. It's cancerous, scabrous looking. And Ed Zakowski discovered what the issue was when he was digging through some of the blueprints for us. He found this tiny little footnote that talked about the material used, which was galvanized steel. And if you put guys on a ship and they're bored, the chiefs and the officers keep them busy by having them scrape and paint. So anybody that puts a scraper to galvanized steel is going to destroy that protection. So our theory is that, and here it is being pulled up, you can see on the sides, either side of that picture, how bad it's gotten. And people are like, you should paint it better. Well, we put paint on, and within 3 months, it's already eating through again. So um, that's one thing that we're doing to take care of that, is replacing that skin.
Wow.
So we had to remove all those bunks down there and get them out. And then there's some spaces behind there, and that's probably the spaces you're talking about, Ken, in this group of pictures, showing our armory area, our ship fitter shop, and how they're taking that pink wrapping that's fireproof
Yes.
cloth, and they're wrapping all those areas, anything that might catch, some melted steel as they're cutting the decks off, and preventing any fires.
So this wrapping, whatever the space is this that aft number 5?
That's the aft crew berthing, yeah.
Okay,
That
all
you
right.
just saw the bunks from.
All right.
This is our ship fitter shop, all the way aft on the starboard side. On the center line wall here on the right of the picture, that's the shared bulkhead with aft steering.
Would you mind
and
going
that's
back
actually
to the fantail pick? Real
The
quick.
fantail pick?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure. Hold
Yeah,
on.
and I'd love for you to share that photo.
Wait, this one right here, John?
Yes.
Okay.
How are the longitudinals? Are they in good condition?
Longitudinals are all in good condition. It's literally
Okay.
the skin of the ship.
Just the skin. Okay.
Just the skin. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see.
And like I said, if you look at Draminsky, I'm assuming, John, you're going to buy that book. If you look at Draminsky's map of the ship, showing the steel thickness all through the ship, underside and topside, everything right around the rail, and I'm pointing again, I'm sorry, everything right around the rail, the exterior of the ship, is just a tiny bit thicker than what's in the center. What's in the center is just paper thin to begin with. So this amount of rust, we were beginning to see holes coming through the deck, and we were double plating in Baton Rouge just to keep it dry.
I love this picture of the architecture of the frames, and you can see how it's built, because you don't normally see this, right? We haven't peeled up our deck, like a sardine can. And so that's why.
And you have the insulation on the underside of it. So yeah.
Right. We might have insulation.
And incidentally, for those who have slept on board, we tested it years ago, and then the shipyard confirmed our results. That's not asbestos on the overhead. That is fiberglass.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. We started to do some testing like you did, Tim, with that company, taking a sample and sending it down to that company down south, and then they test it. Yeah, that's imperative to do. But wow, can you send that picture to me or something?
I will share with you everything that I sent Ken.
Thank you.
Or I can send it to, well, yeah, whoever. Yeah. There was an interesting question here. We were talking about the searchlights. Let me get back to that picture. That was
Charlton.
Right. Yeah. And I wanted Tim to give this guy the answer, because he was very specific. And of course I like specifics. So.
Carbon rods.
Where the heck was that? No.
Yeah, it's at 8:33 p.m. Oh, sorry.
There we go. Yeah. And this guy right here. Yeah.
Our ship technician, Nathan Bergeron, jury rigged one of the lights into working order back in the 80s during his first incarnation here at the Kidd. He left, did his career, and now he's back in retirement for a retirement job. But he just used a regular welding rod and was able to get the light going. As far as where we can get carbon rods, when we were cleaning out the ship, getting ready to go to dry dock, and we shared a big list with Shane and Paul and everybody at Buffalo about what we did to get ready for dry dock, which was clear out anything that was movable, anything that is irreplaceable in case of a shipyard fire like Bonhomme Richard in San Diego. When we were cleaning out the bosun's locker of any equipment like that, we found about 3 tubes of carbon rods for the searchlights stashed away. I'm assuming either they were there when the ship got here, or it's something Rizzuto found out reserve fleet when he was doing all of his salvaging, but somebody stuck him away in the bosun's locker. So we have some.
When you
Nice.
go through all the crevices of the ship, the dark spaces, the nooks and crannies, and so clear all this stuff out, do you actually do that in teams of like 2 and 3? Because if
Oh, yeah.
Ken was in charge, you know, it's like, all right, I got this corner, and it's like, I don't know what these rods are, I'm throwing them away. And
Yeah.
you know, so do you have like 2 or 3 people? Because you know, first 2 people might not know what it is, but the third person, I was like, I know what, I think I know what those are. Don't throw those away.
Well, their rule of thumb was if you don't know what it is, before you throw it away, get Tim to look at it. So they would have a Tim pile off to the side. And I'm like, oh, that's crap. Get rid of that. Or no, don't ever let that go. So,
Yeah.
but no, what we did, our curator, Elijah Otto, and our collections manager, Gabrielle Fulton, we hired 2 temporary full-time people for the project. Chris Kennedy and Molly Jones. I called her Dr. Jones after Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But
You call him Dr. Jones.
you call him Dr. Jones, though. You call her Dr. Jones, though.
Yeah.
But we put together that team, and Elijah and Gabby would be pulling stuff off. They'd get a couple of others. Maybe I'd be helping them sometimes. Warren Bordelon, who was ship technician as well, would help them at times. Molly and Chris would sit there in the museum as they bring these crates of artifacts and everything in, and they would catalog it, because this is the perfect time to catalog. Shane, being a curator, knows exactly how important cataloging is, and unfortunately, that's something that has slid at Kidd for far too long. Nobody really knew what we had. So as it came off the ship, it was cataloged in the computer system, past perfect system, and then labeled and then crated up and stowed away. And so, we had a whole team for that. And at times, to empty something out and get it over to the museum for our cataloging, Molly and Chris would jump into the fray and pull stuff out as well. They started in, I think, Shane, I told you, October. And we pulled the ship out of the cradle, I think, the 3rd week of April. And it wasn't enough time. We still had stuff on board. That picture of all the bunks being pulled out, we had actually planned to do that in Baton Rouge. And we just ran out of time. So I ended up having to do that in Houma with the shipyard team.
You're talking about this picture right here. Okay.
Yeah. All those rooms with the fire tarping and everything, all that was still full of stuff, and we had to pull all that out. So it was a long day.
I'm going to hit Shane. It's quiz time.
Yes, sir.
Identify this space right here.
That is mess deck with the original World War II configuration of bunks on the starboard or port side hull, and there's the 3-foot lockers. That's what I would say right off the bat. It could. That's what I would say right off the bat. It's mess deck. I don't know.
Tim, is he right?
Other end of the ship. And it's not really a fair question because this has been modified. This is I forget the compartment number, Shane. I'm sorry. If you go down your ladder to aft berthing, and you go down the ladder that's aiming forward, because you've got a different configuration than I do.
Yeah.
But if you that double ladder where one's going forward, one's going backward.
Yeah.
If you go forward, you go over to starboard side and move forward. You've got one small crew space up there.
Interesting. That is. So you're saying, right? You have a double ladder that is going forward.
Both of them, correct.
And then you have the aft one going forward from the stern of the ship, going into that last berthing space back there.
Right.
Right. Okay. So the Sullivan's has one in your double ladder that both goes forward. We have one ladder that goes forward. Right next to it, one ladder goes aft. So if you go down the forward one, you're in our E division berthing.
Yes.
And if you go to starboard side and walk forward, that is our Mark 63 gunfire computer space.
Okay.
Which is probably the space that we're looking at there.
Yes.
But ours is full of analog computers. So that is pretty astounding.
That is for us our sewing room, where any canvas, rope work, that sort of
Bingo.
stuff gets stored.
Bingo.
And,
Right now?
Well,
Or it
it's
was
empty
like the
now, but
sale, or that was the sail off space when the ship was in service.
it's just a museum mod, museum use. It was a crew space back in the day, as evidenced by the lockers. The tables, I think, I would have actually, John, you would have to ask Rizzuto, but the tables, I think, were a museum mod as well. You don't have any bunks in there anymore, but on the pole supports, you've got the bunk hooks. We have one bunk that's used as a shelf in there. But yeah.
So there's a watertight door that leads into that berthing space, and you walk into it.
Right. And that's what I'm standing in, taking that picture. Is you can see the door.
Yeah.
That little hoop right to the side.
So all of that space for us is the Mark 63 gunfire computer for the 3-inch 50s.
So you can see the deck is corroded right there.
Yeah.
Underneath that ladder, so the scuttle above it never apparently sat well, and
those are holes.
Those are holes.
I thought they were just black spots on the floor. Hold on a second.
And you've also got those tiles, and those tiles trap moisture. Yeah. Which is what the Joseph P. Kennedy has been going through right now, going through and pulling out all their tiling, and chiseling out any concrete leveler that they find underneath it, cement leveler.
Because it traps moisture.
Because it traps moisture. And you can also see the bottom, right next to the ladder, the bottom edge of the footlocker is rotted away.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And
I can see
once they pulled that footlocker out, you had a whole lot of corrosion under the deck there, because it's trapping water. Nobody sees it. There were like 2 footlockers sitting on top of this set of footlockers for more storage, and they kept you from opening up those first 2 lids. You could open up the other lid, but you couldn't open up those 2 lids. And that was where all the water was being trapped. I think your next picture shows what they ended up doing with it.
I don't know, but I wanted to hit Shane with another quiz question. Do you mind?
Go ahead.
Shane.
He's picking on you, Shane.
Identify the space. Well, and you, okay, so you make an interesting point. It's like, all right, so the Sullivans could and is in a totally different configuration than what the Kidd is. So there's a, so this space could appear totally different on the Sullivans still.
But it's not.
Oh, it's not?
No. So this is the repair parts shop on the port side, right at the transom, across from the so you'll have the ship fitters that you showed earlier, the aft steering, and then repair parts shop on the port side.
Very good.
So our drawers are a little configured differently. Our parts drawers, I believe, are along the hull, so they would be on the right side of this picture. But I believe there are some also there. And then for us, it curves around. And then we have a little cubby hole in the back. If you go off to the left, there's another access down to the transom itself. And then it's blocked off. And then you have the aft steering. And then if you show that ship fitters space.
Let's see, you're talking about this picture here. No, you're talking. Hold on a second. You're talking about. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Hold on a second. You're talking
the one
about
with the other curve.
Yeah. You're talking about not this one.
Not that. Oh, that is it. Yeah, that was it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
See, so we have a little pass through, right on port, but this is on starboard.
So your hatch there is not in this space, but it's in the other space.
Off the top of my head, I believe that's a solid bulkhead.
Okay. Is it the propeller shaft?
John, I was just going to ask that question. Damn it, you beat me to it.
No,
John beat me to it. Is that the propeller shaft down at the bottom of the screen?
Not the propeller shaft. It's the shaft for the rudder moving side to side for the ram.
So
yeah.
So the shaft would be going longwise along this photograph, not cutting across it say perpendicular, but parallel with the photograph going back, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, that does make sense.
Because that's the very back of the ship.
Shane putting the Naval Architectural Engineering degree to good use.
So Brian
Thank
Cummings
you for your
just had a
support. It was so
great
nice to
question.
have you at my graduation. I appreciate it, Ken.
Not a problem. Whoever pulled this,
Great question.
did you pull this
Yeah.
question up? Who pulled this up? John must have.
Yeah.
I think this is a great question for all three of you guys to answer, because I've heard you talk about it before, and there's context, right?
Great
So
Sure.
have at it.
Who goes
Great.
first?
Now you guys shut up.
I'll go last.
You'll go last. Shane, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I can, because we have not really had an interpretive year, and that's what Brian Cummings is mentioning, I believe, is an interpretive year for the ship, or multiple vessels, ships, boats, and you would pick a year and build the interpretive displays, the stories that you're telling around that year, which gives it some continuity for the visitor, which gives it continuity for the staff. And usually what you'd like to do is do it in the configuration that your ship mostly arrived in. Like we talk about. So, and Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know we've done a lot of work with the Cass and Young. You guys are in about October of 1945 or so.
August is the target date. Yeah.
August. Okay, so you'll talk more about that. The Cass and Young, I believe, is 1957.
Not sure.
Does anyone know that, or if the Cass and Young? And just very recently, the interpretive year for the Sullivans that I worked through was 1962, because we are completely reconfigured out of our World War II, and we're never going to get another 5-inch mount to come back. So I picked the year that we were involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. So that is our interpretation, and we're with the ship going to dry dock over the next 12 to 14 months. Now we can begin removing parts that were added, then hopefully get parts that would have been on the ship in 62, and then really begin to tell that story. So, and how is it determined? I guess my quick answer is you look at the ship, you see what it's configured in right now, you see what work it's going to take it back to a certain time period, and you can weigh out, well, if we take it to 1945, we need to do this. If you take it to 1957, you do this. If you take it to 1962, you have to do this. And then also what the ship was actually doing in service during that time. At least that's how I did it. But I'll let Tim.
Well, before we get to Tim, there was a really interesting comment when we had Ryan Szymanski on
58
from
59.
What? Oh, you're talking about Buzz talking about there.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. When we had Ryan Szymanski on, I want to say that was in the fall, before the last HINSA conference. He had mentioned that a lot of visitors on the battleship New Jersey are they'll come on board and they're disappointed. What's this Coca-Cola machine doing on here? Why is this vinyl seating in the mess deck like orange? And I said, well, it sounds like a lot of visitors expect the ship to be black and white when they come on, like World War II. But Ryan made the point. It's like, hey, look, part of the ship's history was the Vietnam War.
Correct.
And so we're not going to get rid of that.
Right.
For a couple of reasons. One, it's historical. Two, it costs money. So Shane's point, hey, however the ship is handed over to you in whatever state it's in, that's what you run with. Correct?
That's what
you start with, and you figure it out.
Yeah.
And the longer you go, as decades go on, it's just going to be harder and harder to find the equipment if you want to go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's true too.
Right. So yeah, go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No. No, Shane's exactly right. You get the ship in the configuration that you have. And I was in middle school when Rizzuto and all those guys made this decision to go back to 1945 for Kidd. You look at what the ship is configured as when you get it. You look and see how far back can you go, and is it feasible to go back there? Is there a reason to go back there? In Kidd's situation, she had not been structurally modified as far as the deck houses and everything. You look at Sullivan's deck houses and Cass and Young's deck houses, and you look at Kidd's, and there's a distinct difference. They had to build, they got rid of the gun tubs in some of the areas when they pulled off the anti-aircraft and they put on the Cold War anti-submarine stuff. In Sullivan's case, they pulled out a 5-inch gun and completely reconfigured that area with what, a 3-inch 50? Yeah, and then you've got 3-inch 50s. You and I talked about in our walk around video, midships where our quad 40s are, and they to me it looks like they cut off the deck houses right there where you can see our gun tubs and rebuilt it entirely to take care of that added weight that those 3-inch 50s have and stability and everything.
Yeah, and I just did a video about that. They had to add an Amplodyne room for the 3-inch 50s. They had to have the radar room for the 3-inch 50s. So all of that expands that deck house away from your the ship's original Fletcher configuration.
So you guys beat us to being a museum ship. Sullivan's was already a museum ship. In fact, I've got some paperwork showing Baton Rouge was trying to get Sullivan's at one point, and Buffalo sealed the deal before Baton Rouge could. Cass and Young was before both of us, I think. So when they got to Kidd and they looked at her, they realized, you know, we can, if we can get the equipment, actually walk all the way back to 45 because she doesn't have those hurdles that these other ships had. And in that case, that makes Kidd special because she's the only one that will be able to look like she did in World War II. So let's take this risk. Let's start seeing if we could find the equipment. And at that point in time, it was lightning in the bottle. You had the right guy and the right time period and the right ship, and all that material was out in the reserve fleet. So these guys committed to it and have stuck to it. And ever since Rizzuto left, basically our job has been take it the rest of the way to the finish line that he got it to, because he got it almost to perfection. It's just the stuff we've been doing is just little bitty detail stuff to get her back there. But you've just got to see what the feasibility is and then have the commitment to stick to it. Since Rizzuto left, we've been basically ship Nazis of, okay, you're not going to put a plaque there for, you know, Johnny Horton and the Battle of 1812, War of 1812 song or whatever. Just keep it looking 1945. So
I didn't mean to interrupt, but if you go back 2 pictures, Ken.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Let's see. So not this. Wait,
although that is actually kind of fair, but there was one that's more of a quarter angle, you know.
You're talking about this one?
One around there.
Okay.
But it doesn't have the scaffolding in it. It's more of the main deck.
Oh, I see. Yes, I know which one you're talking about. Bear with me a moment. You're talking about, well, here, let's try this one. I don't think this is actually the one you're talking about.
There you go. Okay. This is a beautiful example of what Tim is just mentioning. Now, unfortunately, I have not been to the Kidd. It's something that I have to do. But if you look right behind Mount 52, you see what I presume is the tub for the twin 40 millimeter. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, we don't have that at all at the Sullivans. And it looks as though our platform, because now we have hedgehogs there, which were added in 51, they have also built out that deck on the 01 level. So like there's 2 little portholes on the deck house on the main deck would be covered with, you know, the overhead of the expanded 01 level. So you have the 2 tubs. Then it looks as though you have a narrow walkway to Mount 52. Is that kind of what I'm looking at there?
Yeah, you can walk around Mount 52.
Gotcha. All right, but we have more like an angled, almost like if you were to look at a bridge and the bridge wings, it comes out, you know, almost like a widening triangle configuration. And that's what we have on the top of the deck house. Where here it looks like you have the walkway with being able to walk around, of course, Mount 52, but then the tubs are right there as opposed to it fanning out on its own.
And I don't think this picture here you can see, it doesn't provide the detail you need to, you know, what you were talking about.
I mean, you can see that light, that sun area, that lighted area right behind Mount 51 there.
Yeah.
It looks like, I think that would be the whole thing. I think what we're looking at is Mount 52 is almost facing the camera, and that's that little sliver of light. And then the mount is facing at that, whatever it would be, 45-degree angle or whatever relative to the ship. But then you can see, yeah. So anyway, that's something that no, that's fine. That's just something I noticed as well when we're talking about our differences. It's like even the deck of the 01 level for us seems more expanded, and we do not have the tubs.
Right. And you guys have the shelter on the bridge, on the front of the bridge level that we don't.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that now.
We had it when we got here, and actually, I was talking with you when the curatorial crew was offloading stuff. We found windows left over from it, so they cut it off once it got here just to open that bridge back up.
Any plans of bringing that back?
What's that?
Any plans of bringing back that shelter or the overhead?
No, because they wouldn't have had it in World War II. That was a Cold War.
Right.
It sure was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, we haven't even gotten to John yet. I'm sorry, but
yeah,
that's a little example, case in point.
All right, John, go ahead. What's your opinion?
Well, in Slater's case, it was real easy because the ship came back from Greece in 1993 in World War II configurations. So that was an easy check. There's some, if you really want to nitpick, there's some stuff that's not, summer 1945, which we're targeting. But if you didn't know what you're looking for, you would not know that. So for the most part, Slater's current configuration is late war 1945. We can't go back to 1944. The Orlikins were single mounts. The ship came back from Greece with twin Orlikin mounts. Don't know when that happened. So best we can do is late war 1945, similar to Kidd.
And John, that's a good point right there. Texas is looking for single barrel Orlikins. And Parks desperately, when he got here, wanted to just rip into Kidd and push her back to 1944 and make her look like Johnston. But you can't do that because we can't find the single barrel Orlikins, and the interiors of the deck house would all have to be gutted and reconfigured, and it's just not feasible. You'd be just turning her into a Frankenstein's monster. And the other big factor that I think all of us have mentioned at one point is money. If you're going to put money out, you need to be able to put money out and be able to bring money in as a result of it. And some of that just is not financially feasible.
100%. And it's certainly possible these twin 20 millimeters were on Slater after Japan surrendered, but we've never been able to locate the date. The last picture we have is summer 1945, and there's still single 20 millimeters, 10 of them. Comes back from Greece in 93, and there's 9 twins. So who knows?
Yeah, what are you going to do there? It's very similar to this comment here, where we're talking about here you go. We're talking about the New Jersey, and Sam makes the comment, it's not like the New Jersey is going to strip missiles and add twin 5-inchers back. I mean, where are you going to get them? First of all, second of all, you're stripping away history. So good comment.
Lego History's comment. For Slater, we'd have to, if we went to 1944. We'd have to remove all of Slater's twin 40 millimeter Bofors, install 4 single mount 40 millimeter Bofors. And where are you going to find single mount 40 millimeter Bofors?
Right, single mount.
Torpedo tubes are a different story. Those torpedo tubes were removed probably, I believe it was July 1944. So torpedo tubes.
Lego might be talking about Kidd there, because to go back to 44, you need another set of torpedo tubes.
Oh, well. It applies to Slater as well.
Yeah. And it applies to all of the ships if they're moving from where they're at now to another target date. You've got that equipment just isn't laying out there anymore.
Well, when you talk about the equipment, and I always find it fascinating to learn the little secrets of the museum ship community. The only thing I can do is relate it to aviation, right? And a lot of aviation museums will have planes on display. They can't buy every plane they want to have on display because A, they aren't all available, and B, it costs a lot of money. But what they do is people will, in a sense, donate or loan a particular aircraft to be on display in a museum for a period of time. Is there any kind of program where you could have some guy, I'll use Minnesota, some guy way the hell up in northern Minnesota that for some reason has a whole bunch of single barrel 20 millimeters, and he wants to have his gun on display on one of these ships? Does that even exist? Is that even a thing?
You're running into legal issues there, unless he's donating it to the ship outright. If it's a loan thing, that's a no-go, I'd say, for every museum.
Really? That's a shame.
I would guess that, and I'm not going to get too far into that subject because I got a friend who is in charge of ATF in this state. So.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Let's see. John, did you want to add anything before we go back to the interior?
No, that's okay.
All right.
I have if you guys can remind me later on, I have a question about Kidd's and Sullivan's 40 millimeters, but I can wait till later.
Well, since we're on the subject, why not just do it
Yeah,
now?
why don't we just cover it now?
Get it now.
Do you guys have issues preserving the shell chutes on your 40 millimeters, standing water after a rainstorm?
Yeah.
Ours are rusting out, and I was looking at them today. So.
Yeah, we're having some work done to our 40s. We have the twin 40s on the 01 level. So we're actually doing a lot of work to them now to try to preserve them. And then I'm looking at getting 2 3-inch 50s to remove the twins off of the 01, putting 2 3-inch 50s in their place, like 1962.
John, I can tell you our shell chutes, looking back at the project history, were not in great shape when we got the 40s from Crane, Indiana. So Tim and the volunteer crew got them repaired. And then somewhere around the early 2000s, after Tim had left here, we had to go back and redo the shell chutes again because water collected and they were beginning to rot out again. And that lasted up until the current era, and Travis and company at Battleship Texas are going to be reworking our shell chutes for the third time.
Very nice.
Yeah, they might be a good person to ask next week because maybe they found a solution.
Hopefully.
Other than a wet vac after every single rainstorm. And,
oh, geez. Yeah. Because
Hey,
there's water elsewhere as well. Yeah.
who the hell is this guy?
Oh, stop it. Aaron's a good guy.
Aaron.
He works at the Salem in Quincy. He comes to the Hinza conference. I just hate the fact that I can't say it, but he's got the Boston Bruin thing. Boo, I guess, being in Buffalo. Sorry to hear about your season, Aaron, last year. Yeah, so he'll be there. I don't know if Dan, the other Margaret, might be there, the executive director of the Salem. So
Aaron, how many people from the Salem market?
Yeah, Aaron, how many people from the Salem are going to be in San Diego?
Come on, Aaron. How many people? Answer now.
Since you inserted yourself into our conversation.
No, that's good.
Ken, when are you going to go to a Hinson conference?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
hello.
symposium. It's got to be a symposium.
I was actually trading. Len's schedule was all filled up for the Midway. I really wanted to go, but Shane's going to be stuck with me next year.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm going to be sleeping on Shane's couch.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing a free of charge thing? Okay, yes. We can give you a space on board the ship, man.
Well, not if it's going to be pulled out of. Not if it's. Or well, I guess you made the point. It might not. It'll be there for
And we also have another ship, right, as well, that has berthing on it.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah, I think you'll be good.
Well,
And
apparently,
it's not too high up, and it's not too high up in the superstructure.
That's good.
So we don't have to worry about your height.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
4 of us. Good. Oh, Dan won't be there this year. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So that looks like the Salem's going to be well represented.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. And okay.
Wonderful. That was good, John.
I don't know what that means.
John said wonderful, and then he said it's
typo.
even wonderful.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see. Moving on to where the heck were we? Hold on a second. I apologize. I lost track of the photos.
We were in the sewing room.
Yeah, we were. That
was a great question, though. By
yeah, you know, it really was,
really good
because
Brian Cummings.
yeah, you're talking about this guy right here. You know, it's something I've. Oh wait, no, that's not the one.
That's him, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Oh yeah, right here. You know, it is a good question because it has come up in the past. Like I said, when we had Ryan on, you know, that was a conversation then. I've heard you guys talk about, you know, what year is the ship being depicted in. There was even conversation with Parks, or maybe Tim had mentioned it. You know, Parks is all excited about having the dazzle camouflage put on the ship, even though that's not period correct. Correct. Yeah. So it's an interesting conversation that I've heard many times, but then here's Brian, you know, he's, you know, not everyone's privy to these discussions. So I'm glad you guys took the time to explain it. Thank you.
And for the dazzle, I will say Parks met me halfway there. We turned it into an educational endeavor, so that when the dazzle needs repainting, then it's going to go to I think it's measure 21, measure 31, the all blue like Texas has right now. And then from there, when that fades out, then we're going right back to measure 22. So
yeah, what are you all complaining about?
What
were you complaining
about? I'm not complaining, but you know, I had plans to before we had the sinking incident, and Sullivan's was in 5N, I think it was, all sea blue for her World War II service. Now that I've chosen 62, it's just straight haze gray and underway with the larger shadowed numbers. But I would have loved to have done the sea blue as well. But with our interpretive year, that kind of locks us into a certain camouflage style. So yeah, that just hear you guys going back to sea blue is it makes me jealous.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I talked about it when I visited last September about or last year in September after the conference about that, because we had just come to that compromise, and then you tell me you were already planning for it. And I'm like, oh, great, small world, you know. Now I have backup for, look, this is what Sullivan's was planning to do. Let's stick with this plan. You know, don't veer, don't crawfish. Stick with the stay on target, as the old guy says in Star Wars. Stay on target.
I don't know. The gray's looking pretty good.
The zinking.
Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right, going back to the interior stuff, which we had left off right here.
Oh, you know, geez, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt all the time. And
what?
Because I know you want to continue. But for your, if you just go back one, where you were.
Wait, I love how you think this is easy to do.
I thought you just
not like he's Connor, man.
No, are you kidding me? I'm flipping all over the place. Hold on a second. No, I'm gonna find it. Are you talking about the one where I made the joke about the gray?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was where the heck?
What have you seen on the hull?
Number 18,
where you have them attached to the posts. You know, you have that large steel.
You mean the collars?
Yeah, the collars and they slide up and down. Have you seen any degradation around those welds just from the stresses of going up and down on the rising post? Sorry.
I have not seen any degradation. I have not been up there on the collars. but nothing has been reported. And you'll see at the end of the little picture gallery, we're doing a crawl through of all the tanks and voids, and everything, from keel up to main deck on the interior, looking for structural cracks, stress, deterioration, that sort of. Yeah, that's a fuel tank.
Oh, the lightning hole.
Yeah, that's another. That's the cofferdam.
Oh, damn it! I was gonna have
John knows
Shane
it,
name the
Tchaikovsky.
space.
Oh,
Do
I'm
you know?
sorry.
Do
Wait, you should have warned me.
do you know this space, Shane?
Boy, that's a great question. I know you hear cofferdams. It's so interesting. No, on mine, I don't know where it is offhand. No.
So on my right hand shoulder there, that's the bulkhead shared with the forward fire room. And then the left hand shoulder is a shared bulkhead with some of the forward fuel tanks. So the cofferdam basically is a space to prevent all the heat on the aft bulkhead from touching the fuel oil in the forward tanks there.
So we're running forward to aft here, or is forward to aft?
No, starboard to port.
Oh, this is perpendicular. This is transverse. Okay.
This is transverse.
It's transverse. Got it.
Huh.
I've never been down
very
in ours.
weird space. It comes out for a very short distance, and right about the time it gets basically to the inner bulkhead of the food service line, it shuts off, and then it does the same thing on the other side, shuts off, and then you have a tall, like, first platform down to the keel, just tower tank. And again, about that thickness. It doesn't widen out at any point. It's just that narrow thickness.
Jeez, I'm gonna do a little more research on this on ours here. You know, yeah.
Shane loves the blueprints. I know he loves the blueprints.
Yeah, he does. He actually makes some really good videos about the. It was a video. Gosh, was it like 6? The video that you did about the ward, no, not the wardroom, the mess area on the Little Rock. And then you showed some blueprint stuff. That was a good video.
You like that because I also showed historic photographs in that one.
Right. And then you find the present day stuff. That detective work, for lack of a better word, I can't come up with anything, but that detective work that you're doing there, is there a real term for that? I don't even know, but I find that investigated. Thank you. That's even better. I find that kind of stuff fascinating, where you find a feature on the blueprints and then you go find it, or you find an item in an old photograph and then you go find it. And I get a kick out of that stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, that's but obviously after 6 years, there's still areas that I don't know. You know, like this area. I've never visited the space on the Sullivans.
Have you ever been under the boilers or boiler?
No, I've never climbed under the boilers. No.
Tim,
I know staff has, but
yeah, Tim refuses to give me a picture of that, but
well, that's all right.
Hey, I'm going to change the subject here real quick. I don't think I've seen this guy on before. John C. Is this person familiar to you? Antelope class PG. He was on the USS Chehalis?
That's how I would pronounce it.
Yeah.
Had a 1944 single 40 millimeter on the decommissioned in 70. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the PG-94. I just want to pull this up. I thought that was interesting. What's that?
Patrol craft?
Possibly a 40 millimeter on the fantail. That might make sense. Yeah, John, if you want to send a couple of notes our way, let us know what the Chehalis was. That'd be great. All right, third time's a charm. We are going to do some interior discussion where we left off. Nope, not this one. Not this one. This one. What are we looking at here? Sorry.
So this is still the sewing room. Just after we've cleaned all the gear out and everything, and I think the next one will show you the work that they've done.
You're talking about this one.
Nope. No.
What do you mean no?
No.
Nope.
Okay, now these
Nope.
weren't. No, you gave
No.
these. You gave these to me in order. So
No.
I don't want to hear no. Hold on a second.
No.
This looks like
Close.
it's just been reconditioned. This looks brand new to me.
Close.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
You're in the ballpark. You're
John's not
hot.
laughing. No. I don't know what you're. This is. Hold on a second here. Well, just start talking about something.
So what they did, that deterioration, they pulled that foot locker out, and they found the deck deteriorated. So they have
You're talking about this. You're talking about this foot locker.
They pulled that foot locker out, pulled all that tile out.
Okay.
And they have cut just about the entire length from that foot locker out toward the table and out under the ladder, and replaced all of that steel. And the photo that you'll find eventually, I know, shows like the framing and everything for the fuel tank underneath.
Yeah. Number 40. Hold on a second.
So what you're showing here, Tim, if I can get that right, this image is the same image that he's been showing third time's a charm with the shower curtain where they would wrap the canvas around and all. Is that the same room as this?
No, what you're describing is all the way aft. This is where you said your radar room is, forward.
The gun computer.
On the starboard. Yeah.
Yeah, but he keeps showing the space with like and I thought you said that's the canvas room as well, but
yeah, this is not the canvas room. That's the fire tarping. This is looking forward instead of looking left as you enter the door.
So this is the same space,
same
as
room,
the foot locker.
Same room. Yeah.
God. Oh, so can you just show that one more time then? Because now this will help, because all of that again is gunpla computers.
And I think Tim was talking about picture number 40 and 41. Let's see. So you're talking about.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
So let me go back to the other picture for reference, which I think is this one.
Yes, that's the same exact space right there. They cut all of that out, and you got that. And at the top of the picture, you see where they're beginning to weld new plates in on top of it.
That longitudinal, the two longitudinal, I can't say that word for some reason.
Longitudinal.
Were those cut intentionally? It kind of looks like they're separated there.
Oh, you're talking about towards the top of the picture?
Well, it looks the two smaller beams, they're not connecting to the framing right there. You see, there's so that's an interesting.
They might have been trimmed a little bit, but they're back solid now.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe they had to cut it away and then they're just rewelding. Wow, that is an unbelievably fascinating picture.
Now you notice the edges.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of slagging. I believe what they were using to cut it, I don't know. I've never run across this. It's a type of grinder. They call it a matabo. Apparently it does really well at cutting, better than just the average grinder. But
a torch.
Or a torch, because you get the slagging and everything.
Yeah. Okay. So so if anyone's visiting, you're not going to see any torches going. You're going to see saws and grinders.
You will see some torches going for a project that is later down the line, where we're doing the steward's berthing reframing.
Are we looking at the exterior there on the right hand side, or is that a bulkhead? Interior bulkhead. That's
a bulkhead going towards center line. So you're looking aft in this one. Starboard is the left, and port is the center line. Is just.
I mean, is this? I mean, I'm just flummoxed. It's
now I got to look up flummoxed.
Is that like the shaft alley? Like, I mean, I know where that space is, and there should be
shaft alley is one more. Like this fuel tank, the forward bulkhead of this fuel tank is connecting the shaft alley.
The forward end, so the down end.
Right. So if you look under those two pipes right there, you will notice a little rise in there. That's the shaft. That's the shaft beginning to exit the hull.
running perpendicular to the two pipes.
Correct.
No
You can
kidding.
barely make it out, but
but it's there.
Yeah, it's basically the hull forming over the shaft as it exits.
I've never seen a fuel oil tank this clean before.
Well, remember, before anybody could go in any of these, that was part of what they were doing for those 3 months pierside. They were sending teams in, chemically testing it, going in, cleaning it out, and getting it gas free.
Your plans to paint the tanks, right?
There's supposed to be some coatings after all this is done. So, but you've got to take care of the outer hull before you can do all that.
Yeah.
That's astounding to me. Wow. So that is mirrored on the other side, right? That should be also on port side, the same tank.
Yes.
Right.
And then in front of that, you have the other shaft alley.
Yeah. Because that, if you go back, I don't know if you can go back one, right there, you'll see the opening, like the scuttle opening.
Right at the bottom of the picture.
Yes. And the ladder that leads down. Now, you go to port, that's in our machine shop, which is just opposite of. Oh, wow. Wow. That's amazing. Because I only see it when it's dark and there's just fuel oil everywhere, dripping like in Ghostbusters or something like that. It's just
nasty
because they never really fully cleaned them. Right. Wow.
And there's still a few smudges here and there that we're encountering as we go through. That stuff doesn't come off easy.
The Uncle 60 makes an interesting comment. One day talk about drawing a ship blueprint back in 1940, what it was like for a draftsman. I can, because when I went to school for engineering, mechanical engineering, we did mechanical drafting, T-square, all that stuff. And
just think the sheer number of ship and boat classes in World War II.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I should have asked Len about this when we had Len on last month, the Midway. I actually think I came across something I was reading about the Midway class aircraft carriers where all the drawings, all the blueprints weighed like 7 tons.
Oh my God. Really? Wow.
I mean, thousands of pounds of drawings. And I'd like to, I obviously I didn't get a chance to ask him about that, but I think I remember, the drawings for an aircraft carrier, was measured, not in pounds, but in tons.
Wow. I mean, the manpower, as John had said, the sheer variety of boats and craft that they were constructing all over the country. It's, building those 111,000 boats for World War and ships for World War II. Just astounding. We'll never see it again. Unbelievable.
It wasn't like it was over, a 50-year period. We're talking 5 years. I mean, this is
from the smallest watercraft to the largest thing, about 111,000.
Greatest generation for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, hey, here we go. Well, I will ask Shane, but Matt okay, so
Matt look at that.
Comment. Yeah, drawings for CVN 65. Which one was 65?
Enterprise.
Was Enterprise 65? Okay. Or something like 16,000.
Yeah, I don't know about 16,000 miles. I mean, that's like around the Earth. But okay,
right? Well, let's just say it's 16,000 feet. All right. Think about that. Let's just say Matt's wrong, typo, whatever, autocorrect, and it's 16,000 feet. That's 3 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Matt, if you're correct, please let us know. I mean, but that's like going to the moon or something.
I
don't know.
I think the moon is 250,000 miles.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're under a gun mount here. Okay, so if you want me to figure which one.
Well, and I when Tim sent this picture and he started talking about having to pull up the deck,
52 or 54.
When you've got, is this the kind of corrosion or rusting, or I mean, I know it's not. I know it's under a gun mount. It's not the deck, but is this an example of why you had to pull up the deck?
No. This
It's a
is
40,
another
isn't it?
example. What
Oh,
that?
I know it's a gun mount. I know that, but
40?
all right, forget my question. It's a stupid question.
I'm saying it's mount 52 or 54, but
So you're saying it's a 5-inch?
or
it
it's like,
might
or
be.
it's
So you're
It's a
saying it's a
5-inch.
5-inch.
Yeah.
It is a 5-inch. All right, good guess.
It is a
Shane.
5-inch.
Good guess, Shane.
I
Okay.
think it's 55. Yeah, it is
55.
55 because all that crap is piled up in front of it.
Got it.
So what this is everywhere in the 5-inch guns that you had an overhead hatch, there was deterioration of the decking inside the gun, just like you saw in the sewing room there, leaking down, dripping for years and years. And so we had to go in and replace the plate to where it had eaten it out. Otherwise, like a cancer, it just continues spreading. So this is looking from outside upward and seeing where they cut the decking out, where they got new plating in, welded it, bolted it back into place,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Nice.
hadn't been painted up yet or anything.
Okay.
So this
has to be a picture lying on the dry dock, looking up at the keel.
no, actually, this is down inside the ship.
Damn it!
And it's in the aft fire room. I'm standing up. I'm standing normally.
Really?
When you bring the ship to town, I'm probably sure they have overnights on Sullivan's, or is it all Little Rock, Shane?
It's all Little Rock. Yes, we don't.
All Little Rock. Okay.
We'd hope to change that, but
I'm gonna sleep on the
Yeah.
croaker.
There you go. John, I don't know what y'all got for your overnights for the kids for bathrooms. Did they go ashore?
No, we have a forward head. That they can
You have a
use.
forward head.
Forward berthing's really
And
sweet.
what happens to the sewage?
We have a sewage tank and it pumps periodically to shore.
Okay.
Oh, was this your
Same
poop
setup
tank
for us.
that was up against the hull?
Yes, when they first brought the ship in, they wanted to do overnights and have bathrooms working on board, heads working on board. They put out a bid, and apparently only one guy answered the bid, put in a bid, and so he automatically got the job. And he built a box, but he left one side off, and he just welded that box right onto the bulkhead. Which is horrible because you're putting water constantly against your compartmentalization. You're going to compromise the compartmentalization. If you have a leak in a hole, it's going to ice tray and just move forward. So they cut out our sewage tank. We're going to have something more modern put in. It's a little smaller and it does not attach to the hull. But this is a picture of what that bulkhead looked like. And you can see on the right side, outside of the shadow where it's lit up, you got smooth metal, and that's what the metal looked like on the interior of the tank. You can see where the line going vertically where they cut off and ground it smooth to get the tank off. But beyond that, to the right of the cutting, it's relatively smooth compared to the pitting that's inside there. Fortunately, none of the pitting was deep enough after 40 years to actually have compromised the integrity of the compartmentalization.
Huh. Okay. So what's being installed now is you're going to have almost like a modern holding tank that like a regular pleasure boat might have that you're just going to pump out periodically.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's what we did here, but he attached it to the actual ship, to the bulkhead, and you don't want to do that. So
no,
we got rid of it.
Shane,
that's the tank right there.
That's the same thing. Oh, okay.
That's the same thing.
That looks like the CHT tank.
Yeah.
How was that smell?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
I was not there the day they pulled it out, so. But yeah, you can see the white pipes on the right. That's the boiler. So there was almost no room to maneuver, to work in anything. It was not a great design. We're going to be able to run the new tank. The new tank's going to go right in the same spot, but it's smaller, and you'll be able to move around it and maintain it a lot easier. It's going to be it's going to be user friendly.
Nice.
So.
A user-friendly sewage tank.
And
CHT.
a lot of people don't realize that the modern holding tanks in ships for the Navy did not exist when our ships were all built. It went straight out the side and into the river, into the lake, into the ocean. No treatment whatsoever, just raw sewage coming out of the side of the ship. And they changed that in 1970, 71, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that hot seat picture, which was taken on the Kidd, you can kind of figure that out.
We're gonna have to go back, and Tim and I are gonna have to talk about that, because I just did in the main crew's head there, and the configuration was so different. But I'd like to, because I brought out a different blueprint, and I'd like to compare it to Tim's too. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Because I can't figure out where the trough would have been.
Okay, so it looks like the Chehalis was a tanker. So that
No, it was a gunboat.
what?
PG? Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like
Gunboat.
a patrol gun. Yeah.
Oh, so I have that wrong. Oh.
Um,
Anyway, okay.
I know when you said tanker, I said, what? Tanker?
Yeah. Yeah,
But no,
PG,
that's
PG patrol gun. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right, hold on a second. There was, let's see, picture number 42.
Yeah, so this is one of our fan motors for the exhaust and supply fans all through the ship. And that's one of the things we wanted the shipyard to do while we were there, is to service pull them out, take a look at them, do any repairs that they needed to do, reinstall, because you can see they've got a chain hoist hooked up to that. That space that it's going into at that moment in time was just utterly destroyed trying to get it out and get it back in. I did not include the picture of where it came from, but Shane, where our two ladders differ, both of mine go forward and yours, one goes forward, one goes aft. Because we have two of them side by side, we've got a huge hatch above it, double hatch, and this thing was sitting right behind that. So they had to manhandle that hatch.
Wow.
Weighs hundreds and hundreds of pounds, up and down to be able to get to where they needed to go to get the motor out, raise it back up, let people go in and out to the lower spaces. And then when it came back, okay, well, let's take it down again. And yeah, it was an ordeal.
And I was going to say that's that space with your double ladder going forward. We also, on the sides we have huge plenums and vents coming up on port and starboard, but they're on the same level. So you're saying this was actually aft of that space where the deck hatch would come up, and then
this is in the same space where the deck hatches are located.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is on starboard, and then they're having to take it in starboard to get it over to port.
Wow.
So right forward, where you see all those buckets and equipment, is the sister to this one. You can see the bolt rings at the top of the picture where it's bolted in.
Yeah.
Where the exhaust component circulating fan is. Nope, they're you're right on target. That is their voltage, 460.
460.
You don't want to play with them.
Yeah, no
which
kidding,
is
right?
part of the reason why we didn't want to do it in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And so you included, I thought, a couple of really neat pictures.
Yeah.
And at first I just, okay, I thought they were some cool black and white pictures, but the whole point of including these pictures was for this work right here, the louvers, right?
Correct. So if you will advance one more, you'll have what looks like, one more than beyond that.
Hold on a second. You're talking about this one?
This one, yeah. So this is what we had on Kidd when I got here in 95, and I'm pretty sure Cass and Young has something similar. Shane, I don't remember what you guys have, but these cover all of our supply and exhaust vents out on deck. And the idea of it is to keep rodents, birds from flying in their building nests, getting all through the ship. Doesn't do much as far as rain protection. So those black and white photos are from period. The left one is 1945, and the right one is early 1950s. I want to say during the Korean era. And you can see you've got louvers over those ports for the ventilation, and those louvers are designed to keep the water from blowing in, these rainwater or wave action, the way they intersect with each other. So we decided we wanted to take this opportunity. We wanted to put those back because some of the rust that we see inside the deck house is right in the entryway for those ventilation ports. So they're fabricating one of these here, and then the other picture that you showed of this, you'll see what they're doing is they put the louvers together, and then they're cutting apart our expanded metal screens and matching them. They're taking them off their frames and putting them onto this frame. So the back side of it will still have that rodent and bird protection, but the outward appearance, you've got the water protection there.
What a great idea.
So
perfect example of there's a reason it was designed that way.
Yeah. Well, in when the ship is in service, they don't need that rodent bird protection because they have 330 men on board to chase down the rats or chase down the birds or whatever, crawl through the ventilation ducts. And these guys were, somebody asked earlier how the ship is in the shipyard. This is an example of what I saw. What's today? Today's Wednesday. This is what I saw on Monday when I left the shipyard. They were beginning to reinstall these and seal the ship up and batten down everything. Remove all the stuff up on the bow that you see there where they were working. They're cleaning everything off, strapping it down, getting it ready for the storm.
Has
so those are fabricated.
fantail been patched?
The fantail has the metal back in place and a large part of it welded, and they were covering up the other places that had not yet been welded by the time they needed to do storm prep.
That should be good for the hurricane.
Yeah. For Cat 1, barely Cat 2. That what they were doing should take care of it. So these two guys are awesome. They were teaching me a little Spanish when they were helping me empty out the aft portion of the ship. The guy in the orange here with his back to me is from El Salvador. Fantastic guy.
Nice.
Fun to work with. And I told Thomasy a couple of weeks ago, I walked in after we came off ship. I said, I got to compliment you guys. You have the happiest crew that I've ever seen. People walking back and forth. Shipyard work's not easy. It's hot. It's humid down there. You're dealing with heavy stuff. You bang an elbow, it's going to hurt. And these folks are laughing and joking on their way to break, coming back from break. They're kidding around on the ship while they're working with each other. I think I sent to Travis and to Ryan a little text one day. I said, I'm witnessing a guy cutting out a 1953 dumbwaiter on board a World War II vessel while he's listening to Richard Marx sing Hold On to the Night. It was a weird confluence of timelines. But these are great people to work with. They're fun.
There is no greater song to cut out a dummy waiter than Hold On to the Night.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, you get that nice cadence. Hold on.
It's got to be a slow song, right?
To the night.
Yeah, it's not going to be any
I'll
Def
take your
Leppard.
word for it.
Yeah, no Def Leppard at all. It's got to be slow. You got to concentrate.
Nice.
So
were these fabricated? These levers fabricated? So you took measurements prior to dry dock, and then like they were being fabbed while you were heading down there, or is this all that work that's just been done while she's been ship's maintenance program?
It's done right there in the dry dock.
So they measured everything while there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And these are just the same design as what you see up on the stack, the same angle and everything to prevent water from coming into the stack.
Nice. Question from Uncle 60: Do the louvers move and shut?
No, they do not.
No, they do not. The overlap is enough to prevent stuff from getting in.
Yeah, you can see those are welded. Looks like maybe a 30-degree angle. But let's see. Yep, welded, fixed. Okay.
Hey, there's a Canadian in the chat.
Oh, you forgot about tonight.
That's
Oh, you got to put that up.
I do.
It's
All right.
hard to get good help.
Connor Kilgour.
Mm-hmm. All right. Either one of you guys, what are we looking at? Shane, you want to go first?
I will say that's the mount ring for one of the 40s that's been removed.
I was going to guess it was a hatch.
And then
but
you're
you're
seeing
right.
the
Yeah,
shield. You're seeing a shield on the right. You can see the pattern of the non-skid going around it to protect the sailors as they're splashing around on the 01 level, maybe. And then you actually seem as though you have a barrel in the background as well. So,
yeah, I thought it was a silo for like a nuclear missile, but in the background, can you zoom in?
No,
is that a Liberty hatch cover?
Where?
The wood, there's two pieces of wood with two metal bands around it, leaning up against the gun barrel.
Over on the left?
Yeah. Is that a Liberty hatch?
I don't know what that is.
Is that yours?
No, that's not mine.
Oh.
Yeah, I do not know what a Liberty hatch is, so that might be an inside joke, is it? I don't know.
No. Literally, Liberty ship hatch cover.
What?
Google
it. Wait, the piece of wood in the corner with the two looks like duct tape around it?
It looks identical to one.
Yeah. No, that's not mine, so I can't answer as to what it is.
It's a swing. All right, you're gonna mount some chain to it, and you're gonna swing away, Tim, at night. Just be truthful. But I don't know.
So what that circle is a doubler for where these rings will go.
Gotcha.
So that's where the 40 millimeter was originally sitting, and part of our nationwide search that Shane was helping us with, Cass and Young,
right.
God, who else was it? Texas.
Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of ships looking, and Hazard in Nebraska came through for me. The Slater also, thank you, John, for letting us have your database to access. These rings would have been what was on the ship originally. And then the 40s bolt to the top of the ring. But when they removed all this stuff from the ship back in the day, they had just cut it clear. And so when the 40s were brought back on, for the one that you had that shiny circle on, that stainless circle, they laid down a doubler in Philadelphia and mounted our two twin 40 millimeters directly onto the deck. And then, water goes down through the mechanism and pools and deteriorates the deck over time. So when they pulled the guns off, there was a lot of surface rust, but it hadn't done material damage to the deck. So the shipyard put down a stainless plate on top so that it could better survive any water intrusion. And then using the blueprints that we got from Hazard, they fabricated these foundation rings, and now you can see they're now completed and mounted in place and ready for when Texas sends the 40s back to us.
And the beauty of the foundation rings is that you've got the bolts going through holes on a ring that's elevated above the deck rather than having bolts go through the deck, allowing the water to get in.
Correct. And also it gives the gun a little bit more elevation to where you can depress them more
Mm.
and be able to hit mines out in the water.
Oh. So a couple inches makes a difference.
A couple inches makes a difference.
Always does, guys.
Great. Real highbrow discussion.
Yeah, so that's what you were looking for in the blueprints. Yeah,
That's what I was desperately seeking for like the past 4 months.
wow.
So thank you to everybody that was in on the search. Even if you didn't find the plans, we appreciated the effort. And I'm gonna get corny, but it's yet another example for HENSA of #OneFleet. We all work together. We all talk to each other.
Yes. Do you want to lead into a conversation that you and I will be having independent of Museum Ship Mafia?
We've got something coming up on that in a moment, so that would be a good place to tackle that.
Okay.
We removed our whaleboats and brought them ashore, and trying to find somebody to work on fiberglass/wooden whaleboats. Ours are not wooden whaleboats from World War II. They are Cold War era 26-foot whaleboats. Looks very similar. Rizzuto did a lot of woodwork on them to mock them up to look like World War II whaleboats. In fact, at one point it fooled the curator of the Navy. He was going to send an archaeological team down to Baton Rouge and waste a bunch of taxpayer money, and Frank Thompson and I stopped him by showing him the records. But finding somebody to do that sort of work now, everything's aluminum. So it took a while to find somebody, but ironically, the person that got the job, got the winning bid, his shipyard is right on the other side of those trees there. So he just came over with a trailer, picked them up, and took them around to his shipyard.
Cool. Shane, what do you think this is?
Oh gosh.
Or John, do you know?
Yeah, they're.
It's
Go ahead,
some
John.
sort of gun director computer, right?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Couldn't
That's
tell you,
our
Mark.
that's our torpedo directors from the bridge
No.
level.
Sweet. We certainly don't have those anymore. But right,
Yeah.
abs of the bridge were the two for one for the one quintuple, one for the other.
Yep.
We
Well,
don't have those anymore.
or just shooting from one side to the other, because you got the scope. We only have one scope instead of two, but you can tie them into either tube, so that you're shooting on port side, you're shooting on starboard side.
Damn. We got rid of those a long time ago.
What is this? What is that?
A Mark 51.
20.
That is our 40 millimeter gun directors.
Oh, 40.
Oh, I see the crosshatch. Yeah.
So these were the last things. These the boats and the torpedo directors and the 40 directors were some of the last things that we lifted off bridge level, and the other 220 millimeters that the crane couldn't reach. Once we got into dry dock, the crane could reach them, and they started pulling those off. So those have come to, minus the whaleboats, those have all come back to Baton Rouge now to be restored. And these actually wrote to the 40 directors, with the exception of the one up by Mount 45, all still rotated and elevated and everything, but we're going to clean them up and just make it a little bit easier and take care of any deterioration on them.
Nice.
And Barry Whitty, who John knows quite well, started a conversation on Facebook about these two things. The singular is Polaris. Anybody want to guess what the plural of Polaris is?
Polari.
John?
I got nothing.
That was my guess.
I would have thought Polari too, but because of Barry and him being an instigator, I actually Googled it, and it's actually Polarises.
Oh, really?
Wow, like walruses.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is the one closest to the guy with the straps there. You can see on the right of it the base. The base is actually made out of wood. So you have a wood ring that the Polaris you've got a metal base raised up just like the 40s that sits above the deck, and then you've got a wood base, and then the metal base of the Polaris bolts through the wood to the metal base of the ship.
What is it, like a vibration dampener or something?
It might be something because it has that compass feature to it. It might be for magnetism. I don't know. That's a good question that I would like to pursue and learn more about.
Now, this angle really makes it, I think, if you were to remember, I don't expect it, but like when you showed this, my kind of eyes widened. And I said, they look like Polarises, but they also look like they're 10 feet long, right? Or and 3 feet wide because of the angle with the gentleman down below on the ground. So these are normal size Polarises. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're not that size that they look in this image, right? Yeah, it's late.
Polarises.
It is late.
Polarises. Oh,
yeah. Now, these are a couple of cool pictures. Obviously, the Kidd logo? That's not the right word. The Kidd emblem.
Mascot.
We'll run with that. Being removed and thrown in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah, that's one of our volunteers, Fred Enters. He drove all the way down there. He rigged up this system to where they wouldn't blow out of the back of the truck on the way there.
Are you guys going to paint it right on the stack, or are you guys going to refurbish?
Well, these two pirates here, they're on aluminum with a rubber spray on the back of them so that they don't cause galvanic corrosion, and rubber mounts for the screws in the stack so we don't cause any deterioration that way. But we just got these redone in 18 and 19. They were going while they were off for the filming of Greyhound. We got the artwork renewed because the World War II crew, the artwork was done in 2003. Before that, the artwork changed constantly every time they had it. The one that preceded this one, he looked like a frightened Captain Jack Sparrow, and it's just the crew hated it. And so the artist that redid them in 2003 really studied the pictures from World War II, and she nailed it. When the crew came in 03 and 05, they were like, this is the closest you've ever gotten. Do not lose this artwork. So when they're prepping for blasting and everything, I was like, we got to get the pirates off. So these are going back. We documented our scoreboard so that we don't lose that.
Now that can't be original.
No, we painted that, but that's based on the proper number of kills, shoot downs, all of that.
Okay. All right.
So we don't have to go and research that all over again. So,
let's see.
Nathan Bergeron hung over the side back and breaking OSHA rules back in the early 80s and painted that by hand. He's ready to do it again. And I'm like, no, I'm the safety manager. No, you're not doing that. You were 20 back then. You're not 20 now. We're not doing that.
So the series of 3 pictures.
Yes. So we're returning. This is where Shane's project with me is coming up. The picture on the left is the first platform, mess deck ladder, port side, and that on Sullivan's and on Cass and Young is a ladder well with a divider wall, and behind the divider wall is fire control equipment from the Cold War. Since we were going into the shipyard, one of the things that Rizzuto taught me before he left was this was the steward's berthing back in World War II. This is where the African-American crew lived because everything was segregated back then. It was a bunk space. And he showed me kind of, and I've since studied the plans and everything, how things were changed and everything. So we're with our back to the bulkhead of the cofferdam in the fire room. And you're looking forward. This hatch in the foreground, and I'm pointing for no reason. This hatch got moved from the World War II configuration. The ladder that you see in the middle picture is coming down from the main deck. I'm standing on the main deck shooting down. You see the guy standing in the hole where the food dumbwaiter was put in 50 in 53. So they have cut that shaft out now, and they have sealed up. When I was there Monday, they sealed up where he's standing. So that's solid now, solid decking. They cut the hatch out and dropped the lower ladder down out of the way and sealed that up. That's the white chalk line where they tested the weld. And now this upper ladder will be shifted forward into the space where the dumbwaiter occupied. And the lower ladder and the lower hatch will shift back over to sit underneath the top ladder so that it's in a stacked configuration, one right behind the other. And then that wall is gone. All the fire control equipment is gone. And I know there's people out on the internet that's mad at me about that fire control equipment, but I had to do what the Navy said to do. And now when they finish it and it's cleaned up and everything, we will go in and paint it. We'll install 12 bunks and I want to say 3 lockers.
12 bunks. There were 12
bunks. Yeah,
12
and it's weird. It's stacks of 4. It's 3 stacks of 4. Everything else on the ship is stacks of 3.
Mm-hmm.
3 bunks, 3 high. In this space, it's stacks of 4.
So,
and this is where the African American crew live.
Yeah, Tim, I'll share with you the 43 to 45 blueprint for the Sullivans. If you
okay. Yeah, it'll probably look the same as what Kidd's was, but every one of them is a little bit different. We have the Sigsbee's blueprints as well, and they're a pretty good match most of the time. You might see a different locker type or a different arrangement of bunks, but yeah. This is something that we've been wanting to do a long time, and one of the things that Rizzuto told me, he said, if you ever get her to shipyard, you should do this. Because now we're able to tell those guys' story. We've told people for years this was the steward's berthing, but with all that radar equipment in there, they can't visualize it, and I understand that. So this was one thing that was near and dear to our heart, and I really think one of the selling points when we were going asking for money, not just that we were in good investment with Greyhound and ship reunions and other movie stuff coming to town. We've brought money into the community, and we're asking for just that much back to keep her going for another 40 years or more. But we were conscious of this aspect of our crew, which was not being told, and I think people really latched onto that. And that's, Shane, do you want to talk about it? We're going to be collaborating in the next few days, maybe next week after all the hurricane stuff going on, for a joint video.
Yeah, and when we probably right now it looks like it will be back when we get back from Midway, but okay. Tim and I are going to be discussing the steward's berthing more in depth, and he's going to have a special guest. So we'll do not a museum Ship Mafia, but we'll do a separate live session, Tim and I, and he'll have a special guest on that he's been working with to talk more in depth about this. So we're very excited about this. This is beginning to tell a story that's long overdue. And again, with us in 62, as Buzz says, Cass and Young is 58, 59. Navy's already desegregated by that time, and or integrated, I should say, maybe is the better way of saying that. And so our spaces would not return to that, or I'll speak for the Sullivans. We would not convert it back to the segregated berthing. So it's important that one of our Fletchers does, and good for the kid, good for Tim to recognizing that, Tim Rizzuto, and then good to Tim and Parks for actually latching onto that. It's an astounding story.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be fascinating too. I mean, when you talk about the black, what was their title, messmate? or were they
Stewards mates, and you
stewards
see
mate?
some of them referred to as mess
Yeah.
later on
In the
yeah,
movie,
and
in the
earlier.
movie Greyhound, you saw Cleveland.
Yes.
So steward's mate, mess mate, seaman, Cleveland, whatever. That guy carrying the tray up and down the steps, up and down the ladder. Is this that ladder right here?
No,
It would be it.
no. He was going up and down the bridge ladders.
Oh,
But I got to tell you, Rob Morgan was the actor that played Cleveland. He and the other two stewards mates that you see in the film, they were on board for boot camp before the movie started filming, and they had him wearing the white uniform that you see in the movie. And just in conversation with me, I was like, what's happening to your do you know what costuming is doing with that after you're done? Because I would love to get it. I have a project, and I never did get the damn costume. But I got to talk with Rob, and Rob was really, really interested in learning more about stewards mates. So I shared with him what I knew. And when he found out that there was a place where they slept on board, they weren't just with everybody else. He really wanted to see it, and so I took him down and showed him that space, and as it was. And he was really interested in that project and everything. He's like, I when y'all get this done one day, I want to come back and see this.
Nice.
He really just was invested in that character, and he was very nice, very generous when he left after filming. He gave me a big hug. He said, "Thank you for telling me all that, because that really helped me understand and put myself in Cleveland's feet."
so he was the actor that played Cleveland, not Pitts. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're really excited to have this done. And one sad thing about it though was my research trip last year to see Shane and see Buzz on Cass and Young and Sullivan's brought something up that I was really surprised at, that neither of you have dumbwaiters like we did. So
Right.
it kind of sucks that we were the only one, and I'd be curious if Velos has it. If Velos has it, then they now have the only dumbwaiter on a Fletcher still in existence. But we had to kill that dumbwaiter to get stewards mates back, and it sucks, but it's a food elevator versus telling some of the crewmen's stories, and that won out on it. There's been talk online about people being upset about me getting rid of some of the Cold War stuff, but we're not dishonoring the crew. We're telling the stories of all the crew now, and
well, and it goes back to telling
with
the
one
story.
Guy that
it goes back to telling the story of whatever year you choose to depict the ship in, right? And so if you're going to do it, it'd be great to keep the dumbwaiter because it is a piece of equipment, but honoring their participation, their service, I think that's 10 times more important than
absolutely. And we're not dishonoring the white crew, because I shared with them a story on one of our videos where 5 of the guys shared with us a story that they'd all been keeping for years, because they didn't want one of our 3 stewards mates who died in the kamikaze attack for people to think he was a coward, because he was sick and feverish and delusional, and he dove overboard thinking the ship was sinking coming out of this space. And they were like, we don't tell this story till everybody's dead, because we don't want anybody thinking, we don't want his family thinking that he was a coward. This guy was sick and it wasn't his fault. So those guys were concerned about these guys too. So I think we're honoring all the crew. The picture on the right is our chain locker. And I think you got a picture of us lowering the anchor chain 2 weeks ago. We were following Slater's example from 2014. They emptied out their chain locker, and Rizzuto and Zakowski reported on it at a HENSA symposium in Norfolk, and everybody in the room was like, I never thought about that. But saltwater residue, sitting down in that locker, decades later could do some harm. So I followed Rizzuto's example on this one and included it on the list of things we wanted to do. Some people were worried about, is that chain just going to break in half or something? And like Park said, in an earlier episode of Museum Ship Mafia, some of that anchor chain sitting at the bottom of the ocean is still 100% solid. And I mean, it doesn't look pretty here, but it's all surface rust. We took some, we cranked it up to high speed at one point instead of just crawling along, and the chain wanted to torque, and it twisted itself into a knot as it was coming out of the hawse pipe there, or the chain pipe there, and so we had to stop and beat it back into submission and straighten it out again. And man, that chain took the hammer blows with not even a wince.
So are you going to leave the chain locker empty then?
No, they're going to go in, and the only deterioration we see is, you see those angles coming out on the left hand side?
Yes.
Those are wooden. Not sure why, but they're wooden. And so there's a little deterioration on the metal, and the wood is just completely rotted up. But everything else in there is solid. So they're going to go in, clean it up, and repaint, and then they'll blast and paint the chain and the anchors, and we'll feed it back in.
So we kind of alluded to this, but yeah, you've been crawling around.
We've been crawling around the past week, a couple of times 12-hour days plus 2-hour driving time down and back. It was a long week last week. But we're going through from the keel to the main deck and from stem to stern, investigating all of the supports, all of the void spaces, the tanks, documenting where we see any deterioration. Somebody asked in the chat earlier, and I don't remember who it was, if there's any evidence of the kamikaze attack, any of the damage. You can actually see areas like where you were showing earlier, where the little lockers are, Shane, on the left-hand side, but in the aft part of the ship. You can see where we got hit by a tug in 1984, and they had to cut out a huge section of plate and replace it. Oddly enough, there's no visible evidence of where the freighter almost cut her bow off in 53. So that tells me they replaced the entire sheets. They didn't just weld something in. They pulled an entire plate off and put something back in. Barry Whitty came down in February, and he helped us with an emergency in the forward fire room where one of our worst leaks was. All of our electrical just began blowing fuses left and right. And in the process of fixing all of that, Barry discovered something really interesting. None of the electrical in the None of the electrical in the forward fire room is set up the way it was to design. So if you go back to the aft fire room, it's set up a certain way, and the engine rooms are set up a certain way. But forward fire room, where she took the hit from the kamikaze, it's jury rigged together, and there's boxes, electrical junction boxes he was looking for that they weren't there. And we started searching, and we found them in the engine rooms. That attaches to that fire room and feeds power to it and everything from the distribution boards. And so you look at the electrical system in the forward fire room, and you see the evidence of the damage. Basically, they didn't try to fix it the way it should have been fixed. They fixed it just to get her back out in the fleet and get her operable again. And apparently, for the next 15 years after World War II, the successive crews didn't try to go back to the way it should have been. They just continued the patch system that the guys in Hunters Point in San Francisco.
So that wasn't
everything.
So that wasn't post service.
That wasn't post service.
Jerry rig. That was wow.
Yeah. From everything that Barry could find,
and
it was
survived.
What they did in the kamikaze, and nobody bothered it because it was working. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Wow.
Yeah, as long as it worked.
Yeah. Buzz, I will definitely send you the same photos when I send them to Shane. I'll send y'all the link so y'all can download them.
Great.
And let me take this opportunity to thank Cass and Young, Buzz, Shane, Paul, and Stephen at Sullivan's for letting me come walk through your ship and eat up a day of your time going through, because that steward's mate's berthing provided really good archaeological clues, just looking for weld marks, looking for bunk hooks back behind equipment and everything that is going to allow us to finish this off and tell the story.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no,
Such an
that's good
important
stuff.
story. And it would be interesting to hear from the other museum ships. Do they have spaces dedicated like you will have on the Kidd for segregated crew? I just don't know offhand if there is another
Texas
space.
does and Alabama does that I know of. Alabama actually has a head for the segregated crew and, of course, segregated quarters. They didn't have a segregated eating area, but they had one particular table. Matt McClooney has pictures of black and white standing in line waiting to be served food together. But then when it came time to eat, the black crew members had to go to this one particular table. And that's one of the mysteries that we have for hours, and we're still trying to hunt. And I'm hoping our special guests might be able to come to find out his dad was a steward's mate. Hopefully we can find out through his efforts. Destroyers, DEs are cramped. They don't have a lot of room like the battleships and the carriers do. Where did the black crew members go to use the bathroom on Kidd? And we don't have an answer for that. None of the crew members that we talked with could ever answer that. I think Alabama has the clue that we need to tell us. And there's a lot of people that when they hear the answer, they're going to go, "Oh my God, really?"
No, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jack paid to ask this question. So we're going to pull it up here. You had to pick any ship from World War II, any other ship from World War II, not counting the Kidd or any ships here, to bring back from beyond the scrapyard or the bottom of the ocean. And I know what my answer would be, because
for me personally,
well,
for all of us personally,
well, no, you go ahead. But someone made a comment earlier. I don't know if I'm going to find it in the stream or not, because we got a lot of great comments here, but I think it's the answer I'd go with. Anyway, you go ahead, Tim.
I don't know that I have one. I know Park's answer right off the bat would be Johnston. I would say Johnston and Hull would be good contenders. Absolutely. Sammy B. That was a pivotal battle. Those three. But as I pointed out to Parks at one point, the only reason Sammy B and I'm not throwing shade at their crews for anything at all. The only reason Johnston, Sammy B, and Hull get the recognition that they do is because they went down, because they sacrificed themselves, because Heerman survived. Heerman should have been, Shane, I think you would agree with me, Heerman should have been the first Fletcher saved, because she was in that battle off Samar, but she survived, so she didn't get the recognition.
Right.
So
yes, it's always the disaster leads to more fame or something.
Enterprise is one that always comes up for her record. If I'm going for just Fletchers, Radford, some of the early Fletchers, Radford, Fletcher herself,
it's
now
hard. You're saying they don't have to be sunk. Like, it would be cool to see the
no. Jack says from beyond the scrapyard or the bottom of the ocean, so it doesn't have to be sunk.
It would have been so nice if Queetlalak, the John Rogers, had been saved from Mexico, because she was the last surviving round ridge Fletcher.
Yes.
But I'm a ship geek and I'm looking at the design and everything. You got the history element too. Jack, I don't know if I have a solid answer for you or not. I'm also partial to the four pipers. I learned that from Rizzuto. I love the old four pipers. And he says
he's building one in his basement.
He's building one in his basement. He doesn't have a basement. He's using NCIS for that answer. I'm also partial to the old PFs, the Tacoma class frigates. I love those
Yeah.
things. And Rizzuto is mystified. He's like, "Why? Why are you interested in those?" But
Hmm.
I would
They
love to
destroyed
see.
us for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and two of them still exist in Thailand. I've got to get to Thailand before I die just to go see one of them. I love those things.
Mm.
So, Jack, I'm sorry, I don't have a definitive answer for you for one particular one. That's a hard question, dude. But thank you for asking and thank you for donating.
What do you think, John?
The easy DE answer is, of course, Sam B. Roberts, like Tim said. We actually just learned this summer that DESA, shortly after they got Slater back to New York City in the early 90s, the Greek government sent them a fax saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, we have the Eldridge. Do you want the Eldridge as well?"
Mm.
I won't tell you what Tim's answer to that was.
The other Tim.
Yeah, Rizzuto. San Francisco, of course, very historical ship, and it's the namesake. Frank Slater served on that. That's where he was killed. So I'd say Sammy B or San Francisco if I had to choose two. But it's such a tough question.
Shane?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, okay, so it is a tough question. I automatically just go to World War II, but this is a question about World War II.
It is a question about World War II, yeah.
So I would say USS Juneau. I love the Atlanta class light cruiser anti-aircraft CLAAs. None of them are around anymore. They had the 4 and then another 4, the add-on 4. Of course, that's what the 5 brothers were on, the 4 Rogers brothers, of which 2 disembarked before sinking. And then I would really be fascinated with the World War II ice cream barge that was in the Pacific Ocean as well.
That was a great answer.
Wait, there was an ice cream barge?
Oh, yeah.
Well, why don't you do the research? And
I think I'm going to
know about it.
I think I'm going to. That's great.
So it carried like 3,000 gallons of ice cream, and it would just pull up alongside, and they do an unwrap or whatever, and pass it around. And they were able to make ice cream on board, and then they would pull up alongside.
Talk about a morale builder if you're in the Pacific, especially in the islands. Holy crap. I'd never heard of that, Shane. That's great.
I wish for the Northampton, for say post-war, and I don't want to catch flack for this, but if the Northampton was, I'm beginning to slow down here a little bit. It's a long day, but CC, well, it was command and control hull number 1. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of its designation. It wasn't CC. Maybe it was CC. I think they were they were in Philadelphia. The Northampton was in Philadelphia when the Little Rock was in Philadelphia as well. And I'm just wondering if we've had an opportunity to get that command and control ship, if that was being offered to us. And that would have been, I've done a video on the channel, and for people that know, and if they remember, I really fell in love with that ship. It's the ship with 1 extra deck, all right, because it was command and control, and I turned into a presidential emergency ship if needed. So yeah, it's just like a sailing, radar or communications system with 5-inch guns on it. And I would have loved to have been able to walk through the USS Northampton CC1. It's got maybe, I don't know. Again, my brain's beginning to fail.
I'd like to amend my answer.
Well,
I've got
all
one.
You can amend your answer, and then I'll give you mine. Go ahead.
I don't have a specific ship, but a ship type. One of the Japanese battleships or cruisers. Hell, I'll take a destroyer too. But the distinctive pagoda style.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
Because all of the ships were either sunk or destroyed after the war, and there's nothing surviving it. And it would be nice to see their designs, and because they gave a good fight. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see their weaponry.
That's an interesting answer. Yeah. I still think my answer is going to be better than all of you guys.
Hit us.
What?
And yeah, and you guys are talking about specific ships, and that's fine. You can do whatever you want, but I would love to have an escort carrier, a jeep carrier. And if it was going to get specific, either like St. Lo, Gambier Bay, but I don't need to be specific. Just any escort carrier would be nice.
Yeah.
That was a question, like, or there was a statement very early on, like a Casablanca class.
Yeah. Cabot was a huge loss when that one went sideways.
Yeah, they were very.
Did Katrina contribute to that? Rizzuto
No, she was. I want to say she was gone before Katrina got there. It was just years and years of neglect and sitting there. And from what I've heard through the grapevine, 3 different groups trying to save her successively, one right behind the other when one failed. And sad to say about my home state and about the city there, but New Orleans and embezzlement. So
say no more.
I don't have any proof of that. Nobody tried to sue me. It's just the grapevine that told me that.
Jack Bailey, that was a great question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jack.
Awesome, Jack. Well done.
All right. So those are all of Tim's photos. We've been talking about the USS Kidd going into dry dock. So thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
For coming on yet again and giving us a good episode.
And for missing hurricane parties.
You got sorry about that.
You got hurricane parties going on?
Well, I'm sure there are, but I don't get invited to them because I don't drink. But I can make my own hurricane party.
And I mean, you go through one hurricane, you've gone through them all, right? What's the difference?
Yeah.
I love how you guys have a little bit of rain, and then you just like, we get tell them, Shane, we get snow and ice and the country doesn't care, but yet we just shifted in all-wheel drive and go snowboarding. We handle our stuff on our own, and you guys
grab a 6-pack and just huddle in, and our house isn't going to blow down or anything like that.
You guys get adverse weather, and somehow you find a way to make it national news.
Hey, we keep telling Cantori to stay out of the state, but he keeps coming.
He loves it. Yeah, he must love it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We gotta move on. And
let's just wrap it up, I guess.
What? What? We got another half hour. Let's see. Moving on to the Buffalo Naval Park.
Oh, come on, man. No, let's just.
What?
Everything's great, guys. We'll see everyone in Midway.
All right.
I'm out.
USS Slater.
We're busy. Everything's going good.
Anything you want to add, John?
Again, if you're in the area in Albany, New York, this Sunday, come on down, see Drakenfell.
How do you pronounce his name?
Drakenfell, right?
No.
Yeah, I would say Drakenfell.
Drakenfell. There you go. Yeah.
Like National Football League.
Drakenfell. Yeah.
We have our fall work week coming up at the end of this month. If anyone is interested in that, you can email us. But that's it.
Well, he's not the best color man in the museum ship industry for nothing. That's John Epp, USS Slater.
10:30 at night.
Coming to the rescue. All right. So Shane Stevenson from the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park. Check out the YouTube channel, Buffalo Naval Park, buffalonavalpark.org. John Epp, you just heard, curator at the USS Slater YouTube channel. Search for USS Slater, ussslater.org. And Tim Nesmith, superintendent of the USS Kidd. For YouTube, search for USS Kidd Veterans Museum. And all of this stuff is in the description of the video below. So you can also check out the website, usskidd.com. Anything else I should be adding, Tim?
Donate early, donate often, because dry docking is not cheap. Shane knows that. John knows that. You start blasting, you're going to find stuff you didn't even know. And that's what's going on here. We're finding those little pinholes. To expect it, but you don't know how much you'll find. So anybody that's got a little spare change, throw it our way. We will appreciate it. We will use it, put it to good use.
And are you guys going to have more content and videos coming up of the dry dock process?
Yes, I turned in all of my video about the anchors and all that to Molly and recorded my audio. So Molly should be putting together a dry dock update that should be dropping relatively soon. We teased it on Facebook last week. The hurricane may delay it just a little bit, but and I actually take some of the folks to task out in internet land about your rudder fixation. It's not healthy. You should see a doctor.
Like I said, USSKid.org. Check out the website. I just want to mention something real quick for History X. I want to say thanks for Len. Is it Len Santiago from the Midway that was on last month?
Yeah,
I thought he was great, and it was a real eye-opening thing for me. I didn't know anything about the Midway because it really didn't do anything. It was commissioned after the end of World War II, so you're talking about Vietnam. And he shared this story of not a battle, not an airstrike, but actually a rescue mission, Operation Frequent Wind. So I actually made a video from that, and it's approaching 250,000 views. And it is a great story. So check out that video on History X. It's fascinating. The thumbnail is called Chaos at Sea, but it's about Operation Frequent Wind on the carrier USS Midway. Nice. So check it out. And I just want to say thanks to Len again for not only joining us, but then also sharing that great story. And that is it. So
thank you, everyone, for being here. As always, we had a great crowd tonight. A lot of engagement, a lot of questions. It's appreciated.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. We definitely appreciate you joining us tonight, sticking with us, checking out all of Tim's pictures. My name is Ken Stano with the YouTube channel History X, and thanks for watching. Have a good night, everybody.